Hello everyone, welcome again to the channel. Today I want to share with you my opinion about this particular information that I saw. So this is regarding US Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and his opinion. He says China's military activity around Taiwan threatens the region, and he was saying this recently in Singapore. This was Asia's premier defense forum. So he was saying steady increase in provocative and destabilizing military activity near Taiwan. And then he says Washington remains committed to the One China policy, which recognizes Beijing but allows informal relations and defense ties with Taipei. He said China has stepped up its military provocations against democratic Taiwan in recent years, aimed at intimidating it into accepting Beijing's demand to unify with the communist mainland. We remain focused on maintaining peace, stability, and the status quo across the Taiwan Strait, Austin said in his address, but the PRC's moves threaten to undermine security and stability and prosperity in the Indo-Pacific. And then he drew a parallel with the Russian invasion of Ukraine, saying that the indefensible assault on a peaceful neighbor has galvanized the world and has reminded us all of the dangers of undercutting an international order rooted in rules and respect. Rules-based international order matters just as much in the Indo-Pacific as it does in Europe. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is what happens when oppressors trample the rules that protect us all. The US does not support Taiwanese independence. And then Wei, which is his counterpart, said, meanwhile, complained to Austin about new American arms sales to Taiwan announced this week, saying it seriously undermined China's sovereignty and security interests. China firmly opposes and strongly condemns it, and the Chinese government and military will resolutely smash any Taiwan independence plot and resolutely safeguard the reunification of the motherland, Wei reportedly told Austin. Then Wei said China will respond to any move toward formal Taiwan independence by smashing it even at any price, including war. And then Austin says the US stands firmly behind the principle that cross-strait differences must be resolved by peaceful means. And he says that includes assisting Taiwan in maintaining a sufficient self-defense capability. And it means maintaining our own capacity to resist any use of force or other forms of coercion that will jeopardize the security or the social or economic system of the people of Taiwan. And then they quote the 1979 Taiwan Relations Act, which has governed U.S. relations with the island, and it does not require the U.S. to step in militarily if China invades, but makes it American policy to ensure Taiwan has the resources to defend itself and to prevent any unilateral change of status by Beijing. So this is the article, and I found it very cynical, the posture of Austin, which claims that China is doing the provocations when it is the contrary. The United States has been for many years provoking China, setting up military exercises in the area, sending their navy to the area, just with the excuse of freedom of navigation. They cross the South China Sea, provoking China's reaction. They send all kinds of spy planes to the South China Sea. even to the same areas where there are some contested island in the South China Sea. They're doing it to provoke reactions from the government and from the military of China. But when China has some kind of reaction, it is China who is endangering the stability of the Asia. So this is just pure rhetoric, and it's very, very, very cynical and very dangerous. They obviously want some kind of confrontation, and they're using it as an excuse. The situation of Taiwan is only an excuse. The same reason as it was the situation in Ukraine is very, pedantic to say that it is wrong for a country to invade another when they have been doing that ceaselessly since the foundation of the United States empire. And they have been invading, waging war in all corners of the world, killing innocent people everywhere. So just saying that the innocent don't exist in all countries, that is just because the international order is whatever they claim it to be. It's not the same standard for everyone. So whatever they say is correct is correct. So if they say black is white, then black is the new white. That's the way things work with the United States and this government, and that is very, very shameful for people of the world to see this kind of behavior. But this is just propaganda, and sadly, a lot of people in the West buys this propaganda, and I think that is the whole truth. So let's pay attention to war preparations that the United States has had for many, many years, including the deployment of military strike groups to the South Pacific, especially to the area of the South China Sea. If you want to see who is the real aggressor, who is provoking, just look at all the US military bases in the South Pacific, and all these military bases are surrounding China, and there are also military bases surrounding Russia. So they are the two enemies of the supremacy of the United States, and they stay in their path to world supremacy, to a unipolar world. So that's what they want. That's why China is their enemy. It's not because China poses a threat to anyone. It's just that it poses a threat to their ambitions, to their imperialistic ambitions. That's what this is about. And they're talking now about the situation with aircraft carriers, and they are saying that right now aircraft carriers have some difficulties in logistical issues, and they are going to mention that here. They are talking about aircraft carriers, and they say they are built to dissuade adversaries from attacking American interests, reassure allies in times of crisis, and provide life-saving close air support to US troops in combat. So it's all about war. That's what it is about. They are trying to portray it as some kind of a heroic situation, but it's not anything like that. So let's see what is this trying to get rid of these ads. Okay. Sorry about that. Yes, I need to get rid of that. It's getting in the way of reading this article. Hold on a second. Okay, so let's move back to where we were doing. So now they're talking about the situation where these aircraft carriers have they can be a target because they're large tempting targets for anti-ship missiles. Now China, which has missiles that can strike ships up to 2,500 miles away, has reportedly found a way to track US aircraft carriers in real time. Last June, a Chinese satellite equipped with artificial intelligence detected the aircraft carrier USS Harry Truman during naval exercises off the coast of Long Island, New York, allowing China's military to follow the ship's movement. The Navy will be unable to dispatch aircraft carriers to Taiwan in response to a Chinese invasion because of this situation, and they are saying, given China's long-range anti-ship ballistic missiles, the only hope that a US carrier has for surviving a battle near Taiwan is to hide from Chinese sensors. If this report is true, then the carrier's last defense against anti-ship ballistic missiles is now gone. The carrier can be found, identified, and tracked, and that data undoubtedly can be passed to Chinese targeteers who could then target the warship. In the past, Chinese analysts have had to pore over a massive number of satellite images to locate US aircraft carriers. By using artificial intelligence, the Chinese military could greatly accelerate the process. China already has a variety of ground-based radars, airborne sensors, and satellites that have made US military planners apprehensive about sending aircraft carriers anywhere near Taiwan. The military officers I've talked to said they have been planning for years to deploy carriers so far away from Taiwan that they are out of range of the Chinese missiles, but frankly also irrelevant to the combat. The bottom line is if the US is relying on carriers to save Taiwan, that's a lost cause. It's just not viable. Artificial intelligence will also allow Chinese satellites to quickly distinguish an aircraft carrier electronic signature from background noise on the electromagnetic spectrum. So this is a speculation of what kind of technology they are using to find them. To keep aircraft carriers relevant in the future wars, the Navy needs to invest in carrier-based aircraft that can fly much further without refueling than F-35C Joint Strike Fighters. Hendricks said he estimates F-35C can fly up to 650 nautical miles before it needs to be refueled, and the Navy is deploying this MQ-25 drone to refuel carrier-based aircraft. However, not enough of this drone will be on individual aircraft carriers to refuel a lot of F-35Cs for a large strike. And this is a photo of the MQ-25. This is the aircraft carrier's based drone, and it is called MQ-25 Stingray, and it can be used for aerial refueling, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. So that's what this is. And they say the Navy really needs an unmanned combat aircraft, and the service has been developing such a drone that is called X-47B, and that is what they want, a fighter jet that is unmanned, so it won't need humans to operate, so that it can be operated remotely. So that's basically it. So I just wanted to give you some kind of context on this information. For example, they mention here Taiwan. So just look at Taiwan and look at the coast of China. For example, this part here. So we're going to measure the distance, and let's measure the distance to Taiwan. So it's about 200 kilometers, so that is 135 miles. That's how close Taiwan is to China's mainland. And then we can see the island of Okinawa. The island of Okinawa is approximately 500 miles away. So that's 500 miles away. And then here you have Guam. So the US military has a base in Guam, and that is 1,800 miles far away from China. So that's 1,800 miles. That's roughly 2,500 miles. So that's how far the missiles, anti-ship missiles can reach. So what this means is all this is called a denial zone. So this means all this area, an aircraft carrier cannot be anywhere near this area because it will be destroyed by anti-ship missiles. And not only aircraft carriers, basically any warship will be vulnerable to this kind of anti-ship missiles. So this is why they don't want to do this kind of strategy with China, and that's why they are saying that basically aircraft carriers are worthless, because basically it will be more practical to move airplanes from Okinawa than using an aircraft carrier. So this comes as a contrast of previous wars where the US can deploy their aircraft carriers and act with impunity because all the victims of the US empire haven't had any defensive capabilities that are up to par to China's. So that's why they don't like China, basically because it is standing in their path to supremacy, to be able to rule all over the world. And that's why they don't like China for many other reasons, but that's part of their main strategy. And if you see a map of all the US military bases, they are all surrounding China. They have military bases here in this area: South Korea, Japan, Philippines, all over Asia, including Australia. So they are surrounding China all over the place. And not only militarily, but they are trying to make deals with all the neighbors of China to prevent them from doing trade. And everything that China does is provocations, but whatever the US does is correct and right, and it has nothing wrong about it. There is no mean intent because they are exceptional, and this is the American exceptionalism, that they see themselves as perfect while everyone else is not. So what are the interests of the US in this area of the globe is you'll see why these geostrategic interests of the US take them so far from their mainland, which you can see here is Hawaii. Hawaii is as far as you can imagine from China. Is about 5,000 miles away from China. That's as far as any piece of US soil is, if you consider that the Hawaiian Islands are part of the US because they were stolen, but that is topic for some other video, not now. And there are people who have extensively researched about this particular topic, but anyway, regardless, they are very, very far from China. So what is their interest in this area, and what is the geostrategic interest? And it has been for a long time. So we will talk more about that. But let's talk now about this particular story about Japan and the fact that Japan is doing remilitarization. This is Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and recently his cabinet approved a fiscal plan that will massively raise defense spending, and the aim is to lift Japanese defense spending to the level of NATO countries, that is about 2% of their GDP. And recently also Japanese has negotiations on a defense agreement with the UK, one with Australia, and they signed an unprecedented arms sales deal with Thailand. So it is a lot of very aggressive moves from the Japanese government. So this is to put everything in context. Tokyo's defense expenditure in 2022, the budget was 40.9 billion or 40,000 million US dollars. That is approximately 1% of national GDP. And if they raise it to 2%, it will be 80,000 billion US dollars. So that is, to put it into context again, is the Russian defense budget is about 65,000 US dollars, and is 65,000 million US dollars. So that is going to be larger than the defense budget of Russia. So it's again my opinion that history is repeating itself. The same players, only in different contexts, but we see the remilitarization of Japan, remilitarization of Germany. We see the rise of Nazism, fascism in Europe, and the US is fighting on the side of the Nazis this time around. It was supporting the Nazis also in World War II, but later decided to jump into the fight because they wanted to counteract the influence of the Soviet Union. So that's why they jumped into the fight, not because they didn't like Nazism. As you can see now with recent actions, how they support right-wing agendas, all these white supremacies everywhere. So this is what the US has been done, and they haven't changed. That's just the way it is. So let's pay attention to this information that is somehow relevant to what we're talking about. And it says the US is heavily reliant on China and Russia for its ammo supply chain, and Congress wants to fix that. We recently talked in another video about this particular subject. This is in relation with the rare earths minerals, and they say here the United States has relied almost entirely on China and to a lesser extent Russia in recent years to procure a critical mineral that is vital for producing ammunition. The mineral antimony is critical to the defense industrial supply chain and is needed to produce everything from armor-piercing bullets and explosive to nuclear weapons, as well as sundry other military equipment such as night vision goggles. Antimony is now on the front lines of recent congressional efforts to shore up the strategic reserve of rare earth minerals known as the National Defense Stockpile, and the stockpile will become insolvent by fiscal year 2025. So that's why they are interested in all this. The committee is concerned about recent geopolitical dynamics with Russia and China and how that could accelerate supply chain disruptions, particularly with antimony. They are even talking about creating a policy of recycling spent batteries to reclaim precious metal, rare earth minerals, and elements of strategic importance such as cobalt and lithium into the supply chain of strategic reserves of the United States. And now some historical context, so we understand why the US is interested in the South Pacific. Some of the reasons is after Japan cut off the US supply of antimony from China during World War II, the United States began procuring the mineral from ore in an Idaho gold mine. However, that mine ceased production in 1997. There is no domestic mine for antimony, according to a 2020 report from US Geological Survey. China is the largest producer of mined and refined antimony and a major source of imports for the United States. And the then there is additional complications to this because Russia is the second largest producer, and Tajikistan is the third world largest producer, and Tajikistan is part of the Collective Security Treaty Organization, which is a security organization that includes Russia, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Armenia, and Tajikistan. So to summarize, this is bad news for the US military, and I already talked about this in a previous video where I talked about rare earth minerals, but the situation specific about antimony is graver because if you pay attention to my previous video, the US has large reserves of rare earth minerals. They just don't mine them because apparently because of environmental regulations. So if they need to, they will do it. It just won't happen immediately. So they are trying to plan for the future. But right now, they basically shot themselves in the foot with this hostile policy towards Russia and China. So they are exactly in the right place to put US military into trouble. They should just need to stop exporting these minerals, and it will cause a big disruption to the US military. And like you said, you saw there is no easy way for them to find antimony. The three first largest suppliers of antimony are not US allies, so that is a big thing. So basically, like I was saying before when I was looking at the map, is the fact that is the US exactly who is creating all these military bases surrounding Russia, military bases surrounding China, and hostility all over these two countries, specifically Russia and China. They are the competitors of the US, they are the challengers, they are ones who are challenging their power, and this is confirmed with the recent events worldwide. But the US policy has only, really been counterproductive. And what it has happened is that Russia and China deepened their ties. They are now allies, basically, and it is recently there was some information about this no limits partnership that was signed between the two countries even before the invasion of Ukraine happened. So the US has put itself in a corner with this strategy that is really backfiring in a big way. This article in particular is just talking about a bridge that was just opened between China and Russia, but this is just symbolic of the deepening ties between the two countries. This bridge in particular was finished in 2019, but because of COVID it wasn't open until now. They of course did this investment because they want to have more trade between the two countries, and China has said that they want to deepen practical cooperations with Russia in all areas, and that basically include all areas, not just trade. And this particular bridge is going to increase trade, is going to make it faster. And Russia said in April that it expected commodity flows with China to grow and trade with Beijing to reach 200,000 million by 2024. China is a major buyer of Russian natural resources and agricultural products. And China also has declined to condemn Russia's action in Ukraine and even has criticized Western sanctions. So you see, they are very close to each other, they are allies, and this is bad news for for US militarism, US empire. I don't know what will come out of this, but I just wanted to put all this into context. So you have the the opportunity to decide what you think. This is my opinion. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, and as always, I ask you to please like the video, share it in social media. I hope to see you again very soon. Thank you for watching.